All right, we can now move on to a reading of ordinance number 19.
An ordinance to approve a plan and zoning development, establish a plan office district titled Hanson Revised Short Form PDO, located at 400 North Van Buren Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes first reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan and zoning development, establish a plan office district titled Hanson Revised Short Form PDO, located at 400 North Van Buren Street, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final, the motion passes. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan and zoning development, establish a plan office development titled Hanson Revised Short Form PDO, located at 400 North Van Buren Street, third and final reading.
Okay, we've had three readings on this ordinance. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against this ordinance? Anyone who wishes to speak against the ordinance? All right, I've got 11 cards that wish to speak in favor of it. It is been approved by the Planning Commission, so let me take a director's comment first. Director Hendricks.
I wanted Mr. Moore, your director, to come up to the mic.
Mr. Collins.
I'm going to remind y'all, I got a long memory. Mr. Jamie, I wanted to ask you, first off, do you have any information related to the case that was in this same location in the late 90s? You may not. If you don't have it, I can remind you.
Yeah, are you talking about the actual plan development when it first got approved in that area?
It was denied.
Oh, you're talking about the property just a little bit south of this. It wasn't quite in the same location, but it's a little bit south of it.
And
I did not bring that documentation, because it was not.
Are you somewhat familiar with the situation?
Somewhat familiar with the situation.
Could you share with the board what it is? Because several of them were here when this incident happened, and we denied this applicant, who was a black female.
Well, what Director Hendricks was speaking about was there's an applicant that proposed to.
Director Hendricks, if we could speak to this particular piece of property as opposed to a previous piece of property, I don't think it's germane to this particular rezoning.
I think so. You have a law degree and I have a PhD.
Well, the ruling of the chair is that it's not germane.
Okay, well, let's get to where I want to go. So would you explain to me why you denied this?
We recommend the denial based upon just the use that was proposed. When this property was rezoned for a plan development office, it was done for what was being used at that time. It was just a recognition of a use that was there, which was real estate. Mm-hmm. And so when I was asked, the mayor asked at the time to describe on what the actual, was question was professional use. And what we have is that massage therapy is not considered professional use. It is more in line with a commercial use. It has a specific definition, aligned in our zoning code. So it's a different type of use than what we would consider professional office. And so that was what our denial was upon.
Okay, the areas that surround this, it appears to be mostly residential. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
There's R4 or multifamily across the street, but it's still residential.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think last week I asked you about the number, and thank you, Scott, for bringing up the map, the number of other businesses within that area and the proximity to this proposed business. I'm not quite sure I remember the actual number. Can you give me that again, the number and what proximity they are this
Scott, if you
proposed
could
bid?
go down a little bit. I think the
Yeah.
closest one was you see that PCD right there on
Right.
B Street that's below. You have to go further north and south to Kavanaugh on the north and also to Markham on the south to start getting into more of the commercial uses.
Can you guesstimate how far? Is that a fair question for you?
That's about 4 blocks, I believe.
North and south?
I'd have to see a larger map. I think that's about 4 blocks on the south. On the north, it's a little bit more to the split or right there at Van Buren or Kavanaugh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Director Hendricks?
The thing that I wanted to,
Jamie,
Maybe
you might
move
want to hang close by.
let me come back. Dean has his light
Vice
on.
Mayor Webb, you're recognized, please.
Thank you. It's a question also for Jamie. And you may have said this and I may have missed it. How long has this particular building, been a commercial space?
Well, for a commercial space, it's, for the planned development, that's been about, I would say, 10 years, but it's been also used previously, prior to our actual adoption of any zoning, from some just knowledge of some history in the area. It was a neighborhood grocery, small store that was on there. So it did have that at the time, but when it was brought into the city, it was brought in just as a standard residential, and then it was used as the commercial. It was just, when we rezoned it, that's a planned development office.
So it's been either a commercial or a business for decades?
For decades.
Decades. Great, thank you.
Director Campiris, you're recognized, please.
I think Kathy asked the question. I mean, I've been in this area for a long time, and it has been a non-residential use for as long as I can remember going up and down Van Buren. Is that fairly accurate?
Director Wyrick, you're recognized, please.
Mr. Collins, question. If I understand what you're saying, this is a planned development office, and that's currently there. And so your application was to add this massage therapy to planned development office.
That's correct.
And you're saying massage services do not fall under office use. You're saying it's a commercial use as opposed to an office use.
That's correct. You have to go through 2 different areas of the zoning code to kind of extrapolate it, but I can kind of just read a little section of it. It's considered, it falls underneath health studio or spa, which is a defined use, where manipulated massage or exercises are practiced on the human body, excluding a physician or a chiropractor, in there. And then when you get down to it's actually excluded and has to be a conditional use for that type of operation in an office zone, O1, O2, and O3. And then also in it is allowed in
Wait a minute.
C2
You
and
said
C3.
massage was conditional use under office? Did you read that, or did I misunderstand what you're saying? You're going pretty fast for me, and I listened slow.
It is allowed as a conditional use in O2 and O3 zoning, office, O2 and O3.
Which is office,
Yes.
O2 and O3.
And that's a
So,
little bit more dense of an office than like an O1.
so why does that not fit under this PDO?
Well, it's a conditional use. So when the plan development goes in, it was recognized as the use that was there. It was not specifically called out for in the plan development. Typically, when we do a plan development, we call out the types of uses, like the commercial that you heard earlier today, out there off of Vimy, on what is allowed or can be done in that commercial zone. Same as for any plan development. So it was just not listed as a use inside that plan development for office.
But this request is to add that use.
It's to amend that.
Yeah, and we amend plan development office things all the time to add additional uses.
Yes, we
Right,
do.
and let me try to help here. The only reason this is before you in this manner is because staff doesn't have the authority based on our code. We're up and down the street all the time. It's obviously commercial, but Jamie is planning director, me as city manager. If it's in the code, then it has to come before you, and that's why it's before you at this point.
But it's in the code, if I understand what you're saying, that you could have this conditional use permit under office.
Well,
It's just that it was not identified as one of the items when the plan development was done.
yeah,
But we amend plan developments, I'm sorry,
no, let's go ahead.
this is the way I think fast. So we amend plan developments a lot. People come in all the time and want to change what's in there. So you don't have the authority to say yes. Bruce doesn't have the authority to say yes, but this board can override what this plan development was set up for and add this conditional use for massage therapy there.
That is correct.
Okay.
Amend what was called out for.
Do what?
Amend what was called
Amend.
out for, yes.
Right. But I don't know why this is any different than any other amendment to a plan development. Do you always deny it? Do you always deny them?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Okay.
Director Warwick, one thing is that a plan development usually limits the number of uses that are allowed as right for that type of
I get
development.
that.
So for the plan development commercial, they can't do all 188 commercial uses.
Right.
It's limited, and a lot of the amendments that you get are to add additional commercial elements to it. Now, I can't say that we haven't added office uses or something else that would be appropriate, but that's one reason that they come sort of straightforward with an amendment is because it's appropriate, because it's another commercial use and it can be deemed appropriate in that area.
Okay, is everybody clear on this? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Director Hendricks.
Thank you. Of course, I had asked you earlier if you were familiar with the situation that we had before, but I do know some of the folks who are still here that the same issue came up, and I know the mayor doesn't want me to talk about race, but I'd really talk about the only one up here that talks about race and fairness, because a lot of times fairness just knocks the hell out of not doing the right thing, knocks the heck out of doing fair, what's right. And again, I want to commend you because many of us up here voted against that young lady putting her fingernail and shampoo, whatever. It's the same darn thing that we're asking for now. And I think it's a disgrace if these board members do not fulfill what you bring before us, because we pay you a good salary. And I think that people who are not educated to what it is, and I do have a degree in planning, urban planning and development from St. Louis University, and I know that you're doing the right thing.
Urban planner. Director Campiris, you're recognized, please.
Well, I also voted against what you were talking about, but it was not the same thing. This is a commercial location. It's been a commercial location since I was a little boy running up and down that street. That was a residential site that they wanted to redo. So I think it is a clear difference, and I call the question.
The question's been called. Is there a second to calling the question? All in favor of calling the question indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The question has been called and approved. I do have roll call has been requested on calling the question.
Director Hendricks? Nay. Director Richardson? Nay. Director Peck? Aye. Director Hines? Yes. Director Wright? Yes. Director Wyrick? Aye. Director Campiris?
Aye.
Director Fordson? Aye. Director Adcock? Aye. Vice Mayor Webb? Aye. Be 8-2.
8-2, the question has been called. Mr. Carpenter, I believe that means we move directly on to the vote on that. I do want to let everybody know I have 11 cards all in favor of it, but the question's been called, so we'll go forward with the vote. All in favor of the passage of the ordinance indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinance is passed. Roll call on the ordinance, please.
Director Hendricks? Director Richardson? Director Pack? Director Hines? Director Wright? Director Wyrick? Director Campuris? Director Fordson? Director Adcock? Vice Mayor Webb? 8-2.
8-2, the ordinance is also passed. Director Richardson, you recognize, please.
Yeah, just one point of clarification. Tom, procedurally, when the mayor acknowledged that we had cards in favor and one card against,
No, there were no cards against.
well, I thought you made reference to one card
No,
against.
no. I said there were 11 cards all in favor.
I thought you said one. I mean, sometimes I hear what I want to hear and see what I want to see. But I thought I heard her say, we said one card against and 11 for. So if we don't have one against, then. No, if they.
I asked if there was anybody here in addition to the fact,
She did fill out one.
But see, y'all be too quiet. You
what is your name, please?
need to speak up and speak out.
Mayor, the vote's been taken and the matter needs to move on.
I'm looking at all the cards. There's nothing here that indicates anybody asking to speak against it. I made a public request for that, and nobody raised their hand and said,
She stood up.
But you didn't say nothing.
Mayor, as a point of order, the importance is that it doesn't matter if you had 100 cards both ways. When the board moves to call the question and the question is called, you proceed to the vote immediately, and the right of discussion is off.
all right, very good. The question was called, Director Richardson. All right. That